Welcome to my channel Starlight Sci-Fi Stories. Thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe. Ethan Cole hated formal events. Not because he disliked aliens. He liked aliens. Aliens were logical. Cultures were complex, but at least they followed rules. Ceremonies, however, were chaos wrapped in silk and smiles. Right now, Ethan was seated at a floating crescent table inside the Hall of Accord on the planet Veltaris, surrounded by beings who had spent their entire lives mastering posture, tone, and silence. He had spent his life mastering load limits and failure points. Bad trade. Ethan adjusted the collar of his formal jacket for the fourth time in 10 minutes. The fabric shimmered faintly, reacting to the ambient light, and he hated it. Clothes were supposed to stay still. Anything that reacted without permission was untrustworthy. Across from him sat Ambassador Atrel, a tall Valorian with 4 eyes arranged in a calm diamond shape. Atrel hadn't moved in 20 minutes, not even a blink. Ethan blinked twice, just to feel human again. On behalf of the United Systems, a voice echoed through the hall, translated smoothly by the implant behind Ethan's ear. We celebrate the unity of shared progress. Applause rippled politely. Ethan clapped half a second late. His supervisor was supposed to be here, Dr. Lena Moravec. She loved this kind of thing. She spoke 7 languages and could debate infrastructure policy while smiling. Ethan designed planetary stabilizers. He made moons stop drifting and cities stop sinking. He was here only because the Valorian capital rested on a floating tectonic shelf, and he had built the system keeping it in the air. At the far end of the hall, seated on an elevated platform, was Matriarch Sailrin, ruler of Veltaris. Her presence pressed down on the room like gravity. Even Ethan felt it, and he barely believed in authority. Beside her stood a small Valorian child. Ethan noticed her because she was moving. She looked maybe 10 years old by human standards, her skin marked with faint bioluminescent lines that pulsed when she shifted her weight. Her name, from the briefing, was Leary, the matriarch's only heir. She was bored. Very bored. She poked at a floating crystal dish, watching it spin. She leaned too far over the edge of the platform, then pulled back when an attendant whispered sharply. Ethan frowned. His gaze drifted upward. The Hall of Accord was ancient, beautiful, and structurally questionable. He knew because he'd argued about it for weeks. The ceiling was supported by a ring of suspended arches, each one reinforced by gravitic anchors installed centuries ago. The anchors were outdated. The material was old. The safety margins were thin. Too thin. Ethan's eyes locked onto Arch 7. A hairline fracture glimmered along its inner curve. His stomach tightened. That wasn't there yesterday. The child Leary slipped free of her attendant. No one noticed. She walked toward the edge of the platform, drawn by the slow drifting lights beneath the arches. Valorian gravity fields made things float beautifully and fall unpredictably. Ethan muttered, half rising from his seat. The fracture widened. His implant fed him data automatically as his engineer instincts took over. Stress spike, anchor instability, cascade failure possible. The arch groaned. A deep ancient sound, stone and metal disagreeing with time. Ethan stood fully now. No one else reacted. The music continued. The speeches continued. Leary stepped directly beneath Arch 7. The fracture split. Ethan didn't think. Thinking took time. He ran. His chair tipped backward, clattering loudly. Heads turned. A guard started to shout. Too late. The gravitic anchor failed. Arch 7 began to fall. It didn't drop fast. Valorian gravity softened descent, but it weighed hundreds of tons. Slow or fast didn't matter. Physics was patient. Physics always won. Ethan reached the platform in 3 strides. The arch descended. He grabbed Leary around the torso and twisted, throwing his body between her and the falling structure. The impact hit like a collapsing planet. Stone slammed into his back. Something shattered, maybe the arch, maybe him. Pain exploded down his spine. His left arm bent the wrong way. His vision went white. But Leary screamed, which meant she was alive. Ethan hit the ground hard, breath punched from his lungs. Debris settled around him in a cloud of glowing dust. Darkness crept in. Good, he thought vaguely. That means I did it right. Sound returned before sight. Shouting, alarms. A high, panicked voice crying his name in a language his implants struggled to keep up with. Pain arrived fully, eagerly. Ethan groaned. He's alive, someone shouted. Do not move him. Secure the child. No, Leary's voice cut through the chaos. He saved me. Ethan forced one eye open. He saw boots, robes, flickering medical drones, blood his pooling beneath him. Then everything stopped. Not slowed. Stopped. The alarms cut off mid-tone. Voices died. Even the floating dust froze in the air. Footsteps approached. Measured, calm, absolute. Through his blurred vision, Ethan saw matriarch Sailrin step forward. She did something no Valorian ruler had done in recorded history. She knelt. Her robes touched the broken stone. Her crown tilted forward. Her head bowed low, lower than any subject. A collective gasp rippled through the hall. Ethan tried to speak, failed. Sailrin placed one glowing hand gently against his cheek. You placed your life beneath my child, she said, her voice steady and shaking at the same time. You chose without hesitation. Ethan swallowed blood. She okay? He rasped. The matriarch's composure cracked. She lives, Sailrin said, because of you. Darkness took him. Ethan woke up in light. Soft blue humming. His body felt like it had been taken apart and reassembled by someone who hated him. Don't move, a voice said gently. He turned his head an inch, regretted it immediately. An elderly Valorian sat beside the bed, wearing scholar's robes instead of noble ones. I am Archivist Thalen, the man said, and unfortunately I am here to explain your situation. Did the hall fall? Ethan asked. Partially. Child. Alive. Ethan closed his eyes. Relief washed through him stronger than the painkillers. Good. Thalen studied him for a long moment. You are aware, the archivist said carefully, that the matriarch knelt before you. Ethan opened one eye. Yeah, that wasn't normal, was it? No, Thalen said softly. It was catastrophic. Ethan sighed. Figures. Thalen activated a holographic display. News feeds filled the air. Valorian councils in chaos, religious orders arguing, military units standing by. When the matriarch knelt, Thalen said, she invoked the binding of lives, a vow older than our written laws. What does that mean? Ethan asked in simple terms. Thalen met his gaze. It means your life now outranks the throne. Ethan stared at him. No. Yes. I'm an engineer. And now, Thalen said, you are a problem. Ethan laughed weakly, then winced. I didn't save her for politics. We know, Thalen said. That is what terrifies everyone. What happens now? Thalen hesitated. The matriarch is bound to honor any request you make. Ethan thought of the falling arch, the crack, the ignored warnings. Then I want to see the structural reports, he said, because your city almost killed a kid. Thalen blinked. Slowly he smiled. I believe, the archivist said, this is going to change everything. Ethan Cole became famous while he was still unable to sit up without help. That alone told him something had gone very wrong. News feeds played silently on the wall of the medical suite. Valorian analysts argued in calm, controlled tones. Religious scholars debated symbols and ancient vows. Foreign diplomats demanded explanations. All of them circled the same image. The matriarch of Veltaris kneeling before a human engineer. Ethan turned his head away. "I didn't ask for this," he muttered. "No," said Archivist Thalen, seated beside the bed again. "You didn't." Thalen looked tired, older than when Ethan had first seen him. "Your species never does," Thalen added quietly. Ethan frowned. "What's that supposed to mean?" The archivist didn't answer immediately. He tapped a control and the news feeds faded. In their place appeared structural diagrams of the Hall of Accord. Cracks, stress lines, failing anchors. "You saved the matriarch's heir," Thalen said, "but that was not the only disaster avoided." Ethan focused despite the pain. Arch 7 was only the first failure, wasn't it? "Yes." "How long until the rest followed?" Thalen hesitated. "Hours, possibly less." Ethan exhaled slowly. The entire hall had been a domino structure. One failure would have cascaded through the system. Thousands of people, crushed, suffocated, pulled into collapsing gravity wells. No one had listened. Except now. "The city council has frozen all ceremonial activity," Thalen said. "They want your assessment." Ethan laughed weakly. "Of course they do." "You are difficult to ignore," Thalen admitted. The first time Ethan stood again, it hurt so badly he nearly blacked out. The medical brace supported his spine with a soft mechanical hum. His arm remained wrapped in a regenerative sleeve that glowed faintly. Leary stood nearby, holding her attendant's hand. She watched him like he might fall apart if she blinked. "You don't have to be here," Ethan said gently. She shook her head, bioluminescent lines along her cheeks pulsing. "I want to." He nodded, "Okay." Matriarch Sailrin entered without ceremony. No crown, no platform, just a ruler who looked like she hadn't slept in days. "I will not kneel again," she said immediately. Ethan blinked. "Good." A few aides flinched. Sailrin met his eyes. "But I will listen." That got Ethan's attention. They stood before a massive hologram of the capital city, floating districts, layered gravity plates, ancient structures balanced on modern tech. "It's beautiful," Ethan said. "It is fragile," Sailrin replied. "Yes," Ethan agreed, "that's the problem." He raised a hand, zooming in on the support network. "You built elegance on top of tradition," he said, "but you never updated the math." Murmurs spread through the room. Ethan continued, voice steady. "Your ancestors were brilliant for their time, but gravity manipulation isn't magic. It obeys rules. You ignored safety margins. You stacked symbolic architecture on top of stressed systems." He highlighted failure points, dozens, hundreds. "If Arch 7 hadn't failed," Ethan said, "something else would have soon." Silence followed. Finally Sailrin spoke. "Can it be saved?" Ethan looked at Leary. "Yes," he said, "but not with pride." The work began the next day. Valorian engineers watched as Ethan rewrote their assumptions. He didn't shout, didn't demand authority. He explained. He showed them simulations of worst-case failures, then better designs, redundant systems, ugly but strong structures hidden beneath beauty. "This isn't about control," he said repeatedly. "It's about load distribution." Some resisted. "Tradition doesn't care if your city falls," Ethan interrupted calmly. Others listened. Those were the ones who mattered. Leary followed him everywhere, asking questions. "Why do humans build things so heavy?" she asked once. Ethan smiled. "Because things break." She considered that deeply. Not everyone was pleased. A delegation of high traditionalists confronted Saorin publicly. "You dishonor the binding," they declared. "You elevate a foreigner above our laws." Saorin stood tall. "He did not ask for power," she replied. "He asked for stability." They turned to Ethan. "What will you demand?" one asked sharply. "Titles, lands, authority." Ethan looked genuinely confused. "Why would I want that?" he asked. They stared. He gestured to the city beyond the windows. "You don't need a ruler who listens to me. You need engineers who listen to physics." That answer broke something. And fixed something else. Weeks passed. The capital stabilized. Old arches were reinforced. Ceremonial structures gained hidden supports. Ancient symbols were preserved, but no longer carried weight alone. Ethan's body healed slowly. One evening, he sat on a balcony overlooking the city lights. Leary sat beside him, swinging her legs. "Will you leave?" she asked suddenly. "Yes," Ethan said honestly. "Oh, but I'll come back," he added, "if you want." She smiled brightly. "I'll write to you." "I'd like that." Saorin approached quietly. "You have changed my world," she said. Ethan shook his head. "No, I just stopped it from falling." "That is the same thing," she replied. She hesitated. "The binding remains." Ethan met her gaze. "Then let it mean something simple." "What?" "That when someone is in danger," he said, "we act." Saorin bowed her head, not kneeling, just acknowledging. "Agreed." Ethan left Veltaris 3 months later. The city floated stronger than before. Leary's letters followed him across space, drawings of birds, questions about Earth gravity, one badly drawn sketch of a human holding up a city with one hand. Ethan framed it. Years later, when humans were asked why they built things so strong, so careful, so stubbornly safe, Ethan answered simply, "Because lives are heavy." And humans learned early how to carry weight. The end.